Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights, here with a recap issue. It's issue number 200. Those of you who know me, even though I'm a math guy, I'm not really a numerical goals person. I do keep metrics on some things, but I think it's more important to get going in the right direction than to worry about the goal that's way out there. So didn't have a goal of 200. In fact, if I did have a goal, it's probably 1,000. So looking forward to continuing to deliver daily episodes to you and do that on behalf of the sponsors, Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, ComC.com, Burbank Sports Cards, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Heritage Auctions, Huggett the Scott Auctions, Topps, Panini, and Upper Deck. Thank you, sponsors. Thanks for sponsoring the last 20 episodes. So this recap starts with episode number 179, which I thought would be more controversial since it's kind of a controversial topic, but I don't know. Maybe it wasn't, or maybe I unpacked it in a way that people said, "Oh, I get that now." But BCCG from the beginning was controversial. In fact, had a nice follow-up question that has been dealt with as well to address just the confusion in the marketplace when there's all these other grading companies have 3 letters and BCCG has the audacity to have 4 letters, and that's intended to make it stand out. 180 was the other recap. Don't recap the recaps. 181 was, I usually call them tributes if the person has passed away, but a kind of a player episode about Jerry West, who was one of my boyhood heroes. I never met him, but an amazing player and perhaps an even more amazing executive. And as you know, he's the logo. And if you're interested in that time of basketball, and basketball's hot right now, was a fun episode for me to do. 181A, the weekend episode about the personal collecting mission statement. I still think that's a good idea. All mission statements really ought to involve who you're going to serve, what kind of people or what kind of group, who are you serving and how are you going to serve them. And usually it's good if you're serving them from something that you're good at and that you enjoy. So, and I'm good at numbers and I really enjoyed serving collectors and I still intended to continue doing that. 181B was the then and now episode about Mark McGwire's true rookie card, the little back and forth I had with Ben Wilson. And I thought, well, let's go check some of my back issue collection of those early magazines, Beckett Baseball Card Monthlies, when the card was just coming out and how it was treated. And so that was just, again, a short treatment, trying to resolve in my own mind. Remember that was a long time ago. And right from the beginning, there was an identification of the rookie card. 182, always enjoyed doing the episodes with Rich. Jimmy Wynn, the toy cannon, was his first favorite player. So fun to bat that around with Rich and to get all the other ancillary stories that come with the back and forth that Rich and I have. And again, we both, I think, had an appreciation for an underappreciated star player. 183 was the Curly Neal, the kind of the dribbling master of the Globetrotters. Can you imagine being on the Globetrotters and doing the same performance night after night, even twice a day on Saturdays or Sundays, whenever, I don't know what their schedule was, but very intense. They always won, and it was, they still were great basketball players, but in the midst of all the tricks, they wound up winning almost every game. In fact, if you ever went to a game that they lost, that would be a very, very rare occurrence. 184 was the faux sponsor, the card fracking, and I will do some more faux sponsors in the future. And so as they come out, you'll see, you'll begin to put things together of how that works. 185 is the origin story with Mike Summer, the Wax Pack hero. And I mentioned, was that a reference to Foreigner? And I guess I didn't unpack that, but the jukebox hero I guess I'm showing my age, but anyway, he was a great interview. And again, there's a guy who's serving the industry. He's got a great voice and a real desire to put out helpful podcasts as well as blogs, helping collectors. 186, another passionate guy. This is the origin story for Drew Herndon. Let Me Get That Potograph. One of the podcasts I really enjoy, admire his passion. And for Mike Summer and on the Wax Pack Hero podcast and Drew Herndon, Let Me Get That Potograph, I've been on their podcasts and that was enjoyable. In fact, when I get to the dueling questions format, you can see one of the reasons I figured that out is I thought, if they come on my show, I ask all the questions. If I go on their show, they ask all the questions. Surely there ought to be something that's back and forth that'd be fun. So that has been fun. 186A was I called it the best hobby question mark. It's amazing. Men's Health had a big spread about the best hobby for men. And here it's the March issue, and February of 2020 is one of the very best months in the history of the card collecting hobby, especially with respect to basketball cards. And now it appears that April may even have surpassed that as being. And so the March issue, when they're talking about hobbies, they don't even mention it. So the card hobby is extremely hot right now. And again, a very wholesome thing to do. No sports going on, but you can connect with your sports heroes through their cards. The collection breakdown math, which was 186B, again, not for everybody, but for you math numbers people out there, just trying to get a handle on the true cost of labor, the time it takes to break down a collection. So hope you found that was helpful. I'm sure I will do a follow-up to that. If you've got other feedback, send it in to drjamesbeckett@gmail.com. 187, as I said, the dueling question format. The first one was Drew. Again, very passionate guy. I knew he'd have some interesting questions. Looking forward to more of that. In fact, the dueling questions got a rise out of Rich Klein, who said, wait a minute, I want in on that format. I said, well, Rich, you already interviewed me. I interviewed you, but he will be coming up on a future episode of a dueling question with Rich Klein. But Drew Herndon was a lot of fun doing that with. 188 was the origin story about Ben Wilson, about the cards co-host. And Ben is a sharp guy, and I really like his economic thinking. Economists are always famous for in a perfect world, this is the way things are supposed to work. But I thought Ben had a nice take on, very opinionated, but a take on his opinions about collecting and enjoying the hobby that we all enjoy. 189 was I called it a player episode for Al Kaline, but it was really more of a tribute because he had just passed away. And the first call I made was Mike Payne, who worked with me for a long time as kind of an editorial director and wrote a number of our books and is from the Detroit area. So he really Mike did a great job on that. 189A was the cultural literacy episode, and we're merging on Passover and Easter and Ramadan even. And my point was that as we're sheltered in place, people either don't trust or don't like, or they don't know what they don't know. And so when you've got a little bit of time, if you have time to check things out, it's not going to hurt you to find out that somebody's custom that seems strange on the front is not that strange as you get to know a little bit more about it. Same goes for card collecting. For those of you who have friends who don't really understand card collecting, be patient with them and help them understand. 190 was the alternative selling platforms. Mike Summer had some good points in addition to what I dealt with Doug Cale a few weeks before, bringing up Sport Lots as well as Facebook Live. Enjoyable episode with Mike, very knowledgeable. 190A, that was the Good Friday episode that I really was tending to make that kind of a holiday. And then at the last minute, I guess I figured out, I'd like to do something with Joe Davis about ethical dealers, which he certainly epitomizes. And we got it was a great interchange. When I had the company, I realized you can't ask employees, do you want a holiday on Good Friday? Because no matter what their religious perspective is, the answer is always yes. Yes, I want that holiday, a paid holiday. But if you ask the question a different way, so if you'd like that to be the holiday, what would you like to replace? What would not be holiday? And they say, oh, well, maybe we don't need to have that as a holiday. 190B was the Saturday episode about Easter scheduling, lamenting the simpler days of back a long time ago when the card shows were so much fun in the 70s that, each city had one and they were on the second weekend of March or whatever, but Easter was potentially a problem since it floated around. 190C, the investment fallacy, out of stock, has taken on a new meaning. Before it meant people were sold out, or maybe they didn't get their shipment yet, but when it's no fault of their own in these unprecedented times, the cards are on the dock or they're sitting, not being shipped. And so it's made the local card shop get very creative, and it's driven activity toward cards that are already open. So I think we've seen that. The dueling questions with Mike Summer, 191, that was fun. Guess that price with Rich Klein on 192. Rich was not the best person for me to do that episode with because Rich can always guess that price if it's in his wheelhouse. And my point about the game is that when you're in this sheltering in place and have time, it's good to expand your borders and try to kind of play that game. When you see something, think, I wonder what that would sell for, what the price is of that. And as you branch out into new areas, new players, new sets, developing that affinity can be good for when you're at a show. In order to recognize what a good deal is. 193, April 15th, obvious tax day. Did a little mention of some of the different kinds of taxes that we all pay as good citizens here in America. And I hope we all pay when we're supposed to pay. Hope that was helpful. If you've got, again, questions about that, I'll come back to it at some point because it's actually more than an annual thing. Some of the sales taxes are more frequent. 194, dueling questions with Ben Wilson. Again, fun to go back and forth with a fellow podcaster. 194A, the youngest tribute I've done. And that's, again, very much thanks to Drew Herndon. Stu Payne, very worthy of a tribute, 26 years old, cancer victim. So that was fun to hear from Drew about how his podcasting co-host had made a great impact in a short period of time. 194B, the Malcolm Gladwell. Again, we're sheltered in place. I recommend reading. I don't necessarily recommend reading all of his books. I mentioned Blinkist, and there are other book summaries out there where the nuggets that Malcolm Gladwell have are and the stories that go with them are compelling and have application to the sports card industry. 194C was about hating plastic sheets, which I don't, but it's complicated. I don't use plastic sheets very much. Again, motivated by an excellent listener question. 195, the 70s, just the buying trip era. That was really a fun time, going to a city and putting an ad in a paper and trying to buy collections. So I told some stories with Alan. Alan's a great hobbyist and great journalist. So I had a lot of fun catching up with him. I've got more on that topic in a future tribute to a close friend who passed away, who I did some of those trips with. 196 was the origin story for Tanner Jones. Highly recommended. He's very he's Confessions of a Baseball Card Addict. So Tanner was somebody I wanted to get on right away. And very early on, the first month, I think, of the podcast, I contacted him and said, hey, you're going to be in Dallas and you're in Houston. And he said, actually, I don't think I'm going to be in Dallas anytime soon. He's got a new baby who has a special name. And so I waited, and then I thought, wait, now that we're sheltered in place, I got to get him on, and I know we're gonna have fun batting around not just the Jose Canseco thing, but just the journey he had in the industry and how he's made different course corrections, but smiling and enjoying it through it all. So thanks, Tanner. 197 was I call it a pre-tribute. It was Carol, my longtime executive assistant. It's Administrative Professionals Day. Very well deserved. Again, fun to just think about how much, sometimes one person can make your life miserable that you work with. But, I had the opposite. One person can really be dedicated to making your job better. So Carol did that. Thanks, Carol. And then the last one was the homeschooling episode I did with Rich Klein. Here's two guys who don't have kids, at home or anything like that. So, and yet we're both lifelong learners. So even though we weren't homeschoolers, we were talking about something that we haven't done, but we could definitely see from our own experience that there's a lot to be learned from checking out sports cards. So thanks, listeners. I'll be back again tomorrow with another real episode. In the meantime, enjoy the current and past ones and have fun in the collecting hobby.